Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. I'm Aaron Porras here with ILTV's Morning Brief.
Leftover trickles now turning back into a flood. Virus cases in Israel seeing the largest 24-hour spike in a month, leading the government to heavily weigh reimposing restrictions. 116 more diagnoses confirmed since Tuesday, seeing the total number of infected skyrocket. Active cases rising again to 2,055, 29 are in serious condition, and the death toll rising to 290, with 5 more fatalities overnight. But recently conducted blood tests suggest that the true infection rate in Israel may be as high as 200,000. The rising numbers come as thousands more students and school faculty also return to quarantine across the country. Leading Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also facing a return to isolation for the third time after a staffer at his office was diagnosed with the virus. But the education minister is blocking all suggestions to immediately close all schools for now, while the rest of the country is still enjoying recent rollbacks in lockdown restrictions. The health ministry is mostly concerned about a second wave of the pandemic. The signs they're looking for are spikes of 100 infections spread out across the country, rather than in one localized area like schools. Some restrictions have been extended, though, until June 16. The number of people allowed in pools and ritual baths is still limited, and returnees from abroad must still enter quarantine for 14 days. Meanwhile, the Palestinian Authority and Gaza Strip are also rolling back some restrictions, releasing over 1,000 people from quarantine. At least 2 new cases have been confirmed in the West Bank, sparking concerns around Palestinian workers getting infected in Israel and returning home with the disease. Finally sitting down with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the Jewish settlement heads' long-awaited meeting, perhaps not delivering news that they were hoping for. The Yesh Atid Council heads hearing the latest about Israel's plans to expand its sovereignty over Judea and Samaria, Netanyahu telling them to get on board with the United States' Peace for Prosperity plan. Time is ticking, though, a vote for its advancement scheduled for July 1, and the settlement leaders are resistant. The United States plan establishes a Palestinian state, which they're against, and they don't like that the initial 60% to return to Israeli hands has also been cut to 30%. But the settler leaders aren't Netanyahu's only concern. Israeli media reporting the U.S. administration is highly unlikely to approve a unilateral Israeli move in the time frame the prime minister envisions. As of now, finalized maps for the proposed borders are reportedly nowhere near complete, which is a White House precondition before any move is made.
No justice. No peace. No justice.
Raising their voices for racial equality, hand in hand for the Black Lives Matter movement.
Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter.
Hundreds of Israelis gathering outside this Tel Aviv beachfront, calling for an end to what they say is racially targeted police brutality.
I believe that Black Lives Matter, and I believe that all human life is important, and institutionalized racism needs to stop.
As protests rage in the United States for the 8th day, Israelis overnight taking the knee outside the United States Embassy in a symbolic stance against the police killing of an unarmed black man, George Floyd, last week in Minneapolis.
If you want us to do better, then damn it, you do better.
Please, I can't breathe. The plea made by Floyd to the restraining police officer, now charged with third-degree murder and manslaughter, brandished on banners held by demonstrators of all races. Peaceful but proud, Israelis of all backgrounds uniting, saying enough is enough.
Black lives what? Matter. One more time. Matter. Let me hear it a little louder. Matter. Let me hear it a little louder.
Chaya Lev, who immigrated to Israel from Texas, telling ILTV why she feels she needs to stand up against the issue.
I tell my friends all the time, as American, here I'm just Israeli. I'm Israeli. In America, I'm an African American. Why? Why are we so divisive?
Many who now call Tel Aviv home after having moved from cities across the United States, saying Israel's voice is a necessary one to add to the conversation.
I think that this is a universal issue. It's not specifically an American issue, but it's important for us to have a stance on this everywhere in the world.
That's all for now, but for more news from Israel, remember to like ILTV on Facebook and on Instagram, and to subscribe to us on YouTube. I'm Aaron Porras, and see you later with our main daily broadcast from Israel at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.